the biggest offseason in Bengals history could be this offseason. Me and Zach are going to put on our GM caps, and we're going to talk about what we would do if we were the general manager, if we were Duke Tobin, for the Bengals this offseason. But before we dive into that, make sure to like and subscribe for all Bengals content, as we are officially in the offseason, as the Super Bowl will be this Sunday, and then all of the offseason talk will be ramping up. So before that all starts, we're going to give what would we do if we were in the Duke Tobin's shoes. How would we fix the Bengals after a disappointing 2024 season? So we're going to talk about guys that we think they should cut, guys we think they should keep, a couple free agency targets. Then we're going to do a couple mock drafts, talk about some prospects, the guys that they should draft as well. So without further ado, let's start off with guys that they should keep. That's the easier one. So let me pull up their salary cap table real quick for you guys, and that'll give kind of a good representation. All right. So some of the main free agents are Von Bell, Mike Hilton, obviously T. Higgins, B.J. Hill, Mike Gesicki, Trent Brown, Cody Ford, Keem Davis-Gaither, Joseph Osai, Tanner Hudson, and a couple other, role players, backups. So obviously T. Higgins, everybody knows that's a guy that they should bring back. But other than T. Higgins, Zach, who do you think is a guy that the Bengals should target to keep?
So, yeah, obviously T. Higgins is the biggest one that the Bengals have to keep. I don't think that any of us can stress it enough. He is a need, and he needs to not leave Cincinnati. Outside of him, I think that Trey Hendrickson needs to stay around. There was a strange standoff with him last offseason when he requested a trade, and we were able to come to an agreement there. But I think he wants a long-term deal, and he has came out and said that him and his family want to stay in Cincinnati, and he wants to win a Super Bowl for the Bengals. So I think that Trey Hendrickson is definitely a need to keep in the building as well. I mean, he's coming off a season with 17.5 sacks. He's another player that I think if the Bengals would have had more team success and would be in the playoffs, I think he would be more in the premier discussion for Defensive Player of the Year this year. So he's 31, if I'm looking at that right? He's 31? Yeah. I thought he was younger than that. But no, yeah, he's 31, so age-wise, he's getting up there a little bit, but his play is just not dropping at all. I mean, he's playing the best football of his career on an individual basis really the last 2 years, I think. So I think he's in need. I think that really him and T. Higgins are the two biggest ones that I think we absolutely have to keep around. And then obviously, re-signing Jamar Chase is obviously a big one too, but looking at the free agent list, I would really say that Hendrickson and Chase are the two, or Hendrickson and T are the two big ones that I would like to see us keep. I'd also kind of like to see us. I just threw my phone. No, wait, he's not a free agent. Never mind. My bad. I was going to say Jermaine Pratt, but he's not even a free agent.
No.
Anyways.
I think the biggest thing in the offseason is going to be that Jamar Chase extension, if they're able to agree with the new deal with T, and then what they're going to be able to if they're going to be able to extend Trey. That's the big three things that is step one for the Bengals offseason plan, is get those guys secure, figure out what path they're going with them. And I think they should do that sooner rather than later, just so once free agency starts, you know what your cap space situation is going to be. You don't have to kind of dangle the numbers. You know what you're going to get. Obviously, Jamar's getting an extension. I don't have any doubts about that.
Yeah.
T, I feel like every day we hear reports that suggest that he's staying. And then Trey, I think, as well. Like you mentioned, he said he's spoken publicly. He was on Pat McAfee this morning talking about it. He said he wants to stay in Cincinnati, and he would like to, hopefully they can come to an agreement on a new deal, because he said he wants to win a Super Bowl for Cincinnati. So that's the biggest thing this offseason. Biggest priority is just getting all three of those guys re-signed. Those are three premier players, obviously,
Yeah.
um, and then figure out what your remaining cap space is after that, and then go on from there. I'm not going to try to put their estimate what their contracts are going to be because I'm not a cap expert.
Yeah.
I've seen a million numbers thrown around, but um, once those get done, hopefully soon, then you can kind of see what guys you can reasonably hang on to, and then what moves you can make in free agency. But outside of those three guys, I would say probably one that I think needs to stick around would be. I think Mike Gesicki. I think he had a great season. He's probably been the best tight end that Joe's played with. Um, and I would like to re-sign him, but the only problem with him is it's a weak free agency class, tight end wise, so we might get outbid for him, which is unfortunate. But I think they should look if they can get him on a reasonable contract. I think they should bring him back. I also think Cody Ford they should bring back as a kind of as a backup guy. We saw he came in and played tackle and guard this season due to injury. And I think he's just a solid guy that is versatile. Obviously, not a guy that you want starting week in and week out, but I think guys like that to keep on the bench who can provide valuable minutes if needed in a pinch, I think he's good. So those would be two guys outside of the big three that I think they should re-sign.
Yeah, I think that I would like to see. What do you think about BJ Hill?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind getting rid of BJ Hill or
Getting rid of him, you think?
keeping him. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think BJ Hill
He's
would
been
be,
solid.
yeah, I think he's been a really solid tackle for or defensive tackle for us for the last several years now. I mean, I think he would be a pretty big one to keep. He was instrumental in our two playoff runs, so I think he's a big one to keep. And also, he's starting to get up there in age a little bit, but I think Mike Hilton, if we can bring him back on a reasonable deal, I think that he would be really helpful to keep in the building as well. I mean, he's more of a slot corner guy. He's not really like a island corner, but he's also just a really good DB blitzer. He's had a lot of success doing that. So I think Mike Hilton would be a really big one to bring back. He's made a lot of huge plays for us throughout his tenure. And like I said, even though he's starting to get up there a little bit age wise, I think that he would be a useful one to bring back for sure. And then to your tight end point, I would love Mike Gesicki to stick around, but another guy that we have who's a tight end, who's a free agent, is Tanner Hudson. I'm a big Tanner Hudson fan. I mean, he came in and played particularly well. I guess 2 seasons ago now, I think it was. He came in and played really good football for us. I think he was. I think we got him. I think we just moved him up off the practice squad at that point. I thought he had a really good year last year. And then, well, 2 years ago, and then this year, obviously, he didn't really get quite as much time with Mike Gesicki. But I mean, if Mike Gesicki, if we can't bring him back, I think Tanner Hudson would be a pretty big one for us to keep around to kind of fill that spot. And then, ultimately, I'd love to see us draft someone that can kind of maybe more long term fill that spot instead of having Burrow play with a different tight end every single year. But if Gesicki, if we get outbid for him, I think Tanner Hudson would be a good guy to bring back on an extremely cheap deal. Who's a pretty decent player.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's look at some guys that are cut candidates. Obviously, just off of this list right here, I'm just going to say immediately Sheldon Rankins. That's pretty obvious. He was pretty much completely useless pickup. Barely played. He wants to leave. We want him to leave. So I think
that was a horrendous. That was an absolutely horrendous situation.
And we would save $10 million in cap space if we cut him. So I think that's a must.
Yeah, he can see the door.
Yeah. I think another one that can see the door pretty easily is Alex Kappa.
Yep. The triple crown of horribleness.
Yeah, he was.
I mean,
first in pressures allowed, sacks allowed, and something else. So yeah, he was just horrible this year.
Yeah.
30 years old, $8 million. We could save $8 million when cutting him. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, he's going to have to
Um,
see the door.
yeah, and I think we have to have a tough conversation about Sam Hubbard. I know you don't feel the same, but I think Sam Hubbard is one that is unfortunately going to have to be cut just because if you see here, you can save $9.5 million,
Yeah.
and that's a large number for a guy that is 30 years old and is coming off of a year where he was pretty much non-existent on defense. And I know he's a legend in Cincinnati, and maybe we can cut and bring him back on a cheaper deal. But I think just for the sake of cap flexibility, I think he's probably the one that is going to be unfortunately be
Yeah.
a casualty.
Yeah, I was gonna say what you said though. I think it would be useful to maybe see if we could renegotiate a cheaper deal with him. But I mean, yeah, just the fact that it's we'd save $9.5 million. Unfortunately, that might just have to be what's best. Because yeah, I'm looking at without cutting him. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
so if
at
you don't cut him, you're at 64 million. Cutting him,
yeah.
you get up to about 74.
Well, for me, I also cut Geno Stone.
Yeah, that was going to be my next guy.
Yeah, I think Geno Stone's going to have to be a guy that goes. He's young. 2 years ago, he led the league in picks, but dude, he was bad this year. I mean, he got benched to Jordan Battle, didn't he? Like
Yeah, at the end
he's
of the season.
yeah, he was not good. He was not getting it done at all. He was just not even close to the guy that we thought he was going to be when we brought him in. I was pumped when we brought him in. I was like, dude, guy led the league in picks last year. He's a young guy from the Ravens. I like this guy, and he was a bust. So, looking back on it, I think the reason that he might have had so much success with the Ravens is because he was complimenting Kyle Hamilton. So he, for me, is one that is going to go.
Yeah, I think another one from that same free agency class, Zach Moss.
Yeah, I was kind of going back and forth on Zach Moss. I think
He just-
really my thing with my defense for Zach Moss is he was hurt.
Yeah,
I mean, so I think he's still an effective back, but on the other hand, Chase Brown broke out this year. Chase Brown, he was the guy this year. He had a heck of a season. He's definitely the guy moving forward, but I was just thinking of maybe if we were to keep Moss in more of a complimentary role. I mean, cutting him saves, what, $3.3 million?
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not really like a lot, but I guess just for the sake of discussion, we can get rid of him. But in my opinion, if we cut Zach Moss, then we're going to have to bring in another guy or draft a running back to comp, because Chase Brown can't just be the only back. And we talked about free agents a second ago. Travion Williams and Khalil Herbert are both free agents now too. So Chase Brown, and Chris Evans is too, who he was out for the whole season, but he's also a free agent. I'm pretty sure I saw as well. So Chase Brown is literally the only running back in that room. So that was kind of my argument for keeping Zach Moss. Because the other thing is there a back that is on the market right now that we're going to be able to sign on for like a 1-year prove-it deal for would it really be worth like going out and finding a back for a 1-year deal, or just keeping Zach Moss for only $3.3 million? What do you think on that?
Well, my big reason for moving on from Moss is just, like you said, the breakout of Chase Brown. And I think this is one of the deepest running back classes in the draft we've had in a long time. So I think that the Bengals can draft somebody in the later rounds that can do pretty much exactly what Zach Moss brings to the table. And so I think they can get somebody who's younger and cheaper at that position. And so I just think that 3.3 mil, it's not a lot, but I think you can get somebody of Zach Moss's caliber later in this draft, because this running back class is unreal. So I just think might as well save the 3.3 because he's coming off of a neck injury or something. So that could be
it wasn't a great injury. And he is 28.
So get somebody younger who's cheaper, who can do pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe try to take the load off of Chase.
Yeah, because it's really more
That's
of a
my main reason.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that makes sense because it's really more of a complimentary role, anyways. Because Chase Brown's the guy,
Yeah.
so it's really just going to be kind of the like you said, take the load off him and more compliment him. So,
Hmm.
I yeah, I could get behind that. Save the 3.3 million. Another guy that I'm looking at that you could save 3.5 million at. I don't know if we want to do this or not, but Cordell Volson,
Yeah, Volson.
you save 3.5 if you cut him.
So cutting him, yeah, you'd be up to 87,
And I mean,
which
he
I could
wasn't
see.
very good this year.
Yeah,
Yes, I
I
mean,
could.
really, he hasn't been that good since he came into the league. So like,
Yeah, I could definitely see them doing that. He's kind of on the fence.
yeah.
Like if I were the GM, I would do that. But
Mhm.
he's kind of on the fence
Well,
of what they would do. But I guess for sake of discussion, um,
yeah. I mean, just for the sake of like
we can
the
put him on there.
discussion, I mean, you put him on the cut board. Now we're at $87 million.
Yeah,
So I mean, that's like, just to kind of ballpark Jamar Chase and T Higgins. I mean, you're probably looking at what, probably 35 or 36 a year for Jamar.
hmm,
And then you're looking at probably 28 to 30 for T Higgins. So
yeah,
that right there is going to be pushing $65 million probably, just for the sake of the discussion. We'll say that
yeah,
those two themselves is $65 million.
hmm.
That leaves us with what is
Like
that,
around
20
30.
22 million left, right?
Yeah, roughly.
And that's only two players, and we're down to 22 million. So now we're like, all right, Trey Hendrickson's going to probably get, I don't
Yeah,
know, what's the market for that?
his is probably going to be. I've heard 2 years, 28. So about 14 to 15 a year.
So now you're talking like probably 10, 12 million left in cap, and that's only three guys.
Yeah, but there are ways that I'm not a cap genius, but people who know more than I do, there are ways that the Bengals can defer that money to where it won't affect their cap this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know like how that works and everything, but I do think realistically, re-signing the three guys, I think you're looking probably with how the Bengals should restructure their deals. You're probably looking still around that 25 to 30 million
Hmm.
is what I've heard from like cap experts who know more than I do, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I
so that's
mean,
still a decent amount of money to play around with.
yeah. I mean, well, and the other thing is that I mean, you bring back those three guys. I mean, those are really your three cornerstones that are free agents, anyways. So I mean, you bring back those three guys. You've got them locked down for the foreseeable future. You still got like 20, 25 million to play with. Now we can start talking about keeping Mike Gesicki and maybe Mike Hilton. Um, so I could see this offseason really being kind of like retaining a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Another guy that you could maybe look at cutting is Drew Sample. He would save 2.7 million. He's 29 years old. I mean, if we want to just kind of clear out the tight end room, you cut him. That puts us at 89.8 million in cap.
Yeah. Um, my one other one I want to point out. He's another one that's kind of on the fence, kind of a Volson is.
Uh huh.
I think, and also kind of like how Hubbard is. I think Jermaine Pratt could be one because his cap saving is about 6 mil. So you cut him, now you're looking at around 92 million.
Yeah.
Um, he was, I mean, he's been good, and I know with Al Golden, being the defense coordinator, he might want to keep him.
Yeah.
But I just think 29. He had probably his worst season last year. I mean, he got 100 tackles, but I think he was like top 5 in the league in missed tackles.
Yeah.
Um, he didn't really provide a whole lot. Um, but I do think like with Akeem Davis Gaither, he's gone. He's not coming back. Then it might the cutting Pratt, the linebacker core could get a little dicey. But I would not be surprised if that is a route that they go. I've seen a lot of indications saying that is the route that they're going to go.
Yeah.
Just because of that, you can save around 6 million, and then that brings you up to around this number about 93 million, which is a pretty good amount to play with. So
Yeah.
whether that means they go out and look for a cheaper option at linebacker or a linebacker in the draft. I guess we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but I think that's one guy that he's kind of kind of on the fence. You can I can see either way, but I just think for the sake of like if I were the GM, I think he would probably be one that would be a casualty just because of his high cap number and his play has kind of been okay but not great. But I think bringing in Golden, obviously ex linebacker coach, I think that he definitely helped his case to stay. But from a lot of reports I've been seeing, it doesn't sound like he's going to be on the team next year.
Yeah. So to that, well, first of all, So I on my board, I cut Drew Sample as well. So I have an additional 2.7 million than what is listed right. Yeah. So if you in my mind, Jermaine Pratt would be the last one to go. I think that he
No,
would
I would
be
agree.
I think that he would be like if we're really cutting it close and we really need a little bit more flexibility to do what we need to do, then I would say go ahead and cut him. But in my mind, that's a last resort. That's like a we don't have we need a little bit we just need a little bit more money. We don't have any other options. That's what I would do in my mind with that. Um, so I would really prefer to keep him, and especially with Al Golden coming back, I think that he could still be usable and effective. Um, but for the sake of the discussion, I guess we can go ahead and cut him, and that puts us at 95.6 million. And that's quite a bit of money there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's quite a
So
bit of
that
money.
that puts you in around the 25 to 30 million range after the extensions of Jamar, and Hendrickson.
Yeah, and if you've got 25 to 30 million dollars left, I think that you can re-sign Hilton, and I think that you can bring back Gasecki. Um, and honestly, even outside of those two guys, because I mean, those two guys right there, you could probably, even with those two guys, say we have 30 million left with both of those guys, we're probably still looking at like what 25 million probably.
Yeah.
So I I think that's probably what I would do for the cuts and re-signings. I think that I would probably look to cut those guys, but retain Hilton and Gasecki. But I mean, also I do think BJ Hill should be a guy that we look at considering as well. So maybe we're looking at more around like 22 million left, maybe to
Yeah.
work with, which is still a pretty good amount of money. So
Hmm.
I guess for the sake of the discussion, I'll keep that rough number in my head of like 22 million ish.
Yeah. I'm not a cap expert. I don't claim to be.
Yeah, no.
About the cap. It's really confusing. So,
Yeah, it really well, and like you said, because there's ways that you can like defer some money and
yeah.
stuff too. So it's like we could end up
Yeah, you
having more
can.
than that. I don't know.
Yeah, but for the sake of our discussion and our exercise today,
Yeah.
we're going to be sitting around that 95.6 million dollar range.
Uh-huh.
So speaking of that, free agency always a big thing. Who are a couple guys that you were kind of looking at for the Bengals to bring in free agency wise?
So for guys that I would like to see us bring in outside of the team that we already have, offensively, I don't really think we need to bring that many guys in on offense. I think that offensively we're sitting pretty good with T and Jamar re-sign. I think that you could look to bring in a running back, but like you said, this is a deep running back class, so I don't really think that's necessary. I think that we could probably get a support running back somewhere in the draft class. So I'm really going to just kind of steer the conversation to the offensive guard room. Um, the guy that I would love to see the Bengals bring in and actually shell out a pretty decent amount of money for. Like I would be perfectly okay if this was the guy that we brought in that was like the most like expensive. Like if this was like our splash free agent signing, that I would love that. I would love to see Mekhi Becton from the Eagles. Um, I don't know for sure if the Eagles. I'm sure they're going to probably look to re-sign him, but if it's a possibility, I would love to see the Bengals go get him. He's 26 years old, I think is what I said earlier. Somewhere around there. He's 20. He's like 26 years old. He's a really young guy. He's played at an extremely high level since he's been in the league. And he would patch really the biggest weakness on our entire offense is that guard room. Because, I mean, center wise, I think we're decent. I mean, Ted Karras, although Ted Karras was, he is not a free agent this year.
No.
Correct. Yes. I had to double check to make sure. But yeah, so the center room is great. The tackles are great. I think Orlando Brown and Amarius Mims played really, they played at a pretty high level this year when healthy. So really the offensive guard is really the only offensive position group that I think we need to seriously address and fix due to the fact that we had the triple crown of horribleness winner. And a guy who on a rookie deal who never really performed anyways. So I would love to see Mekhi Becton. I think he should be one of the biggest like splashes that we bring in. And then I would also love to see us address the offensive line room in the draft as well. But I do know that I think it's Eric Lee, right? That's his name. Is that backup center we took from Miami a year or two ago?
Matt Lee. He,
if I remember correctly, he's a pretty versatile guy, right? So we could always slide him to guard if need be as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Mekhi Becton would be my first guy that I would look at bringing in. And then on the defensive side of things, I'm going to really more so go towards the defensive back room because I think that we should address edge rusher in the first round of the draft, and we'll get to that in a second. So I think I'm going to head to the corner room because that's really been a weakness for us really since I remember. Even the year we went to the Super Bowl, we were still running Eli Apple, who was serviceable. But yeah, the cornerback room has been a pretty weak point for us. A guy that I would be really like to see here is Charvarius Ward from the Niners. He is a proven guy. I'm looking up to see how old he is right now.
I think he's like 31.
28. So he's still on the younger end of things. He's an extremely proven defensive back. He played for the Niners for a long time, been to a couple Super Bowls with them. I'm a fan of him. He's the second-ranked PFF grade corner on the market. So I think that he would be an awesome guy to go out and get. I think we would probably have to shell out a fairly decent sum for him. But I think it's affordable even with re-signing the guys we have. So Charvarius Ward is a guy I'd really like to see. I think another guy that would be really helpful, who might be more of an under-the-radar guy, maybe would be a slightly cheaper option, could be Carlton Davis from the Lions. He is also, let's see, Carlton Davis. He is also 28, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. So he is another one of those guys who's, fairly young still, but definitely a proven vet at corner. I think a proven vet who is still able to perform at a pretty high level is going to be huge for that corner room with really Cam Taylor-Britt, who's underperformed aggressively the last 2 years, and then a bunch of rookies are going to be second-year players who, DJ Turner, he's a good player. He's young. I think he just needs more experience, more training. And then the guy from TCU that came in this year.
Josh Newton.
Yeah, Josh Newton. Yeah. I think he's another one of those guys that's just in the same boat as DJ Turner. I think he's just a young guy who I think has the ability to take the next step, but I think he just needs a little bit of time. So I think getting a guy like Charvarius Ward or Carlton Davis in there would be huge. I think both of those guys would be immediate impact players, great vets to come in and really help out the room. In addition to if we could retain Mike Hilton, I think that would just immensely boost the cornerback room. So those are the two names at corner that I would like to see: Charvarius Ward and Carlton Davis. Um, if you want to look at safeties, because our only safety is Jordan Battle right now, I think that's another position that needs to be addressed through the draft as well. But you could look at guys like Javon Holland or Harrison Smith, maybe. If you wanted to shell out more money, you could probably go to Justin Reed, get him from the Chiefs, guys like that. I'm not really going to be vying too much for a safety as much. I'm really more so looking at the quarterback room. I really like Charvarius Ward and Carlton Davis. And then, yeah, I'm looking at the rest of these guys here defensively. I would say that's pretty much hit it for defensive speaking. I think if you wanted to, you could look at bringing in an defensive tackle as well. I'm not really sure who. I mean, obviously, as I said earlier, I think that we should re-sign BJ Hill if we can afford that. So I don't think that that might not be a room that we need to look at quite as much. Really, I think the most essential rooms through free agency we need to look at are corner and guard. So I would say Ward, Davis, and then from the guards, Mekhi Becton would be the guy. That's more of the splash signing I want to see us make. He's young. He's a great player. Played at a really high level for the Eagles on one of the best lines in the league, or one of the better performing lines. So those would be the guys that I would probably look to bring in if it was me. So I'd keep an eye out for those guys for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be beneficial to bring in a veteran corner, just like you said. A majority, probably 80%, 85% of our cornerback room is all 25 and under, so they're all very young. Mike Hilton's really the only vet. So I think bringing another proven guy, maybe on the boundary, because if you keep Mike Hilton, obviously he's got the slots. So bring in a boundary corner. I like Charvarius Ward, or I think Davis is more of a slot guy, but I wouldn't mind that either. Just somebody who's proven vet to kind of help mentor these young guys. I think that would be huge as well. So I definitely agree with that. On my couple of players I want to highlight, I'm gonna hit guard as well. I think, like you said, I think that's probably one of the biggest needs. I think one that could be intriguing is Will Fries from the Colts. He is coming off of a tibia injury, which is obviously not great, but that could mean that he could be a little bit cheaper. Before he went down, he had an 87 PFF grade, and this past season, he had a 68 pass block grade, and he had a 63 true pass blocking grade. So he seems to be like kind of how Alex Capel was when we first brought him in, kind of a vet dude who's like decent, not great, but he'll get the job done. And I think he could be kind of a cheaper guy, but I agree with you. I think it would be good to look in the draft as well, try to get a young guard that we can kind of develop. But I think bringing a vet like Freeze or Fries, I don't know how to say his name, but it's spelled Fries.
Either one.
I think that could be a good kind of cheap hire or cheap signing from the guard position. I mean, if they want to make a splash, but they're not going to have the money to. I mean, Trey Smith from the Chiefs, he's going to be like probably one of the biggest ones. I don't think that's even a possibility for the Bengals.
He's the number one PFF rated guard on the market. That's not going to happen. It'd be great, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and he's only 25.
Yeah, we're not getting him.
Yeah, so we're not. I'm not even gonna.
How old is Fries?
Let me look. He is 26.
Okay, so he could be a
he's just coming off of his rookie season. So yeah, he had a 75 pass grade and an 85 run grade.
Okay, yeah, I think guys like him and Becton would be good options because they're young.
He's kind of like Mekhi Becton, kind of in that same role.
Yeah, I would just love to see like a guy. I don't think the offensive line is a position room that we should be sparing any expenses for. Joe Burrow's been hit far too much. Been proven over and over again. He's got to have protection. I think the offensive line is the position group that we should be willing to shell out money for. With that being said, Trey Smith is probably not realistic, but I do think the other two
No.
guys are.
Yeah. And then I'm going to look in the interior of the defensive line. I'm going to butcher this guy's name horribly, but he's from the Cowboys. Osa Igdibzuwai. I don't even know. I'm not even going to try it.
I'm looking at him right now, though. Yeah.
But he kind of, he's kind of been plagued with injuries, but he was a third round pick in 2021. And he's had some good sack production. Let me pull up his stats real quick.
Where's he from?
The Cowboys.
No, like college wise.
Oh, I'm not really sure.
Gotcha.
Let me take a look.
They got a guy from Michigan recently, didn't they?
He's from UCLA.
Okay.
So this season he had 33 tackles, 7 sacks, 1 forced fumble. So I think he could be according to PFF, his top free agency comparison is Madubuike from the Ravens last year, which he was pretty dang good.
Yeah.
He had an 88 true pass rush grade, 14.6 pass rush win rate, 57 run defensive grade. So kind of one that I feel like not a lot of people really know about, but a lot of people that, are close or like Bengals reporters or whatever. I've seen his name kind of float around a couple times as a kind of a defensive tackle. He's more underrated, but I think he could be good. And then another defensive tackle, also from the Eagles, much like Mekhi Becton, Milton Williams. He is 25 years old. He is from Louisiana Tech. Last season he had 12 tackles, or I guess this season, 12 tackles, 6 sacks. So definitely good sack numbers right there. So it's he's never eclipsed 50% of defensive snaps played in a season because of obviously you have guys like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on that defensive line. So he could definitely be one that's kind of been under the radar. 54 run defense grade, 81 pass rush grade. I think he could be another plug and play guy that is younger that can kind of help play with BJ Hill, because BJ Hill I think is more of a run defender.
Yeah.
And then you have Milton Williams, who's more of a pass defender with his high sack number. I think that could help as well, take some pressure off of Trey Hendrickson on the edge. And then obviously if they draft somebody on the edge or on the defensive line, could help them as well. So I think Milton and I'm just going to say Osa. That's what I'm going to call him. Both young guys coming off of their first contracts that are kind of been underrated, kind of been under the radar guys, I think could potentially be big steals for the Bengals if their price tag isn't too high. I'm not really sure what they're going to be demanding, but that's going to be the biggest question. But I think if we can get both of those guys on reasonable deals, or one of those guys on reasonable deals, I think that would be a pretty good signing because they're young and have been effective in the minimal snaps that they have played. And I think with a larger role, I think they could definitely be some potential breakout candidates for sure.
Yeah. And that would be great too, just because, like you said, they're young, so that could actually address the issue for longer than just a 1-year patch type of deal,
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the most important part of the Bengals offseason this year, and that's going to be the draft.
Oh, boy.
Obviously, we've talked about it a couple of times, but the recent draft history for the Bengals, has been up and down, not the greatest at times. But so we're hoping, so we're going to do 2 3-round mocks, kind of just discussing some players. So I'll pull it up right here. All right. So obviously Bengals picking at pick 17, and in this mock draft, guys that have been, I guess, linked to the Bengals in previous mock drafts are gone, like Malachi Starks, James Pierce, Mike Green, Benjamin Morrison, Shamir Stewart. So,
but somehow Tyler Warren's still there.
Yeah. So, obviously, I'm assuming we're probably looking at edge first. You got guys like Mykel Williams, Jack Sawyer, Nick Scorton. Those are probably the top 3. Defensive line or defensive tackle also could be in play with Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan. I've seen those names in there as well. So I'm assuming those are probably where we're going to go with this first draft. So any of these guys that you're kind of jumping out to you here, and then I can give my.
Yeah, I mean, I think really any of those top three right there would be my guys. I think that I think that edge is our most pressing issue right now. I think that defensive tackle is a position that we can either, like you were saying, we could fill that through free agency, or we could get guys second, third, fourth round maybe that could, if we hit, could step in and play. Um, I'm if it's me, I'm looking at Michael Williams or Jack Sawyer right here. Um, I mean, I would not hate Jack Sawyer. I really wouldn't. He is a phenomenal player. He had a generational run in the playoffs. I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, no, I think Jack's definitely a good player. He's a very good complementary edge rusher to a guy like Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah,
So, and we've seen, I think one of his biggest traits is his ability to use his hands and use that swim move to get by tackles. Obviously, he on that play where he strip sacked Quinn Ewers and took it to the house, he absolutely dominated that right tackle, who I'm
yeah,
pretty sure he's not too shabby. Um, and then I think another big part of his game is his ability to bat down balls at the line. We saw that countless times throughout the season.
yeah. He's
Him be
huge. He's like
Yeah.
6'6",
Does it say? Yeah, six
six
five, two
five.
sixty. So I
Dude.
think his ability to bat down balls at the line and combined with being a tenacious kind of technical defensive end, definitely I think could be somebody that the Bengals could be looking at.
Yeah,
Me personally, I would probably go Michael Williams here. He's rated higher, I think, in a lot of areas.
yeah,
But his big thing is, so obviously he was at Georgia, which Georgia defenders are never always not a bad thing to draft those guys. I mean,
yeah,
if the Eagles, as the Eagles have done, but he kind of played. They don't really have like a true like edge guy. Like they kind of do, kind of more like a linebacker to edge type of role. But
hmm
he'll be a true edge in the NFL. But his strengths are he's got a lot of power off the point of attack. He's got violent hands. Plays well with leverage. Is good in the run game. Um, like I said, he's good. He's good with power, so he's good at bull rushing. He's got a good motor, so he never quits on plays. And I think he's pretty. I mean, his size is pretty. He's pretty big, 6'5", 265. I ran a 4.65 40. That's unofficial, obviously, but
dang.
so I think he's kind of one of those more like freak athlete dudes. But he's
Yeah, I'd probably go more that route, but
He's, I mean, 78 grade compared to Sawyer's, I guess, 90, but I think he's kind of more your, like, I think he could be your more true one edge rusher when I think Sawyer's would be more fitted as true two, which, I
yeah,
mean, the um, Bengals obviously have a true one, but I think if I were them, I would probably go Michael Williams here.
yeah,
I just think he's probably the best player available at a position of need. I love Sawyer, obviously, as an Ohio State fan, and I think that definitely could be in play depending on how the board falls. But personally,
yeah.
with how this draft's going, I would probably go Mike Hill.
Yeah, go ahead and take him. Honestly, I was hoping to get Jack Sawyer in like the second round, but after his playoff run, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, he helped his draft stock a ton.
Hey, look at that. I mean, look who the number one player is on the board right there.
Yeah,
I would probably do that. I mean, if it's me, I would probably take Tyler Booker there. That's a position of need, a huge one actually.
yeah, I think that's a no brainer. I mean, Tyler Booker, very very good at Alabama, one of the higher ranked guards. He's the number one ranked guard actually.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, he's 6'5", 335, so he's obviously big dude. He's got good power, quick feet, which is good. Good hand placement, high football IQ, which is always good. He can
hmm
play both guard positions, which he did at Alabama. Strong anchor in the pass protection. And he, finished block. So yeah, I think he checks all the boxes. I don't know if he'll be here in the second round because I've seen a couple of people say that he could sneak into that first round. But if
Yeah.
he's there in the second round, I think that's a no brainer to take him at
Yeah, for
49.
sure. I'm also looking at the Jalen Walker down there from Georgia as well.
Yeah, Jalen Walker's really good too. Obviously, another Georgia guy.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, at 6'2", 245, he's a beast as well.
20
So
years
that
old.
could be a guy if they do end up, addressing guard more in free agency and they let Pratt go. That definitely could kind of change um, how their board looks there. So Jalen Walker definitely could be in play at
Hmm.
with that second round pick. But I think for this one
Yeah,
we got to go Tyler Booker.
yeah. He's the guy for this one.
All right, last
Here's the
round. Let's
third.
see who's left here in the third.
Dylan Gabriel,
So we addressed
Isaiah Bond.
so we addressed edge and guard. So
Hmm.
I'd probably say next we could look into the depending on who if they get rid of Pratt, you could look at the linebacker position. You could look at corner. You could look at safety.
Safety, yeah.
I don't know what route are you kind of thinking here?
Well,
Interior defensive line. Deion Walker's a good player.
let's see. We for our discussion, we did end up cutting Jermaine Pratt, didn't we?
Yes, we did cut Jermaine Pratt, so that would leave a hole at the linebacker
But we
spot.
also only have one safety on our team.
Yeah,
um,
and Matabuka from Texas, he's pretty
yeah, I was
good.
gonna say I would probably lean towards him over the linebackers. Man, I don't know. That is. I'd probably go with the Texas guy if it was me in this position.
Yeah, I would probably do that. About 5 interceptions last season with Texas, pretty good. Um, he obviously they had Jedi Barron, who's the Thorpe Award winner, but he was very good. He's super fast. It says on
Hmm.
here, which obviously is unofficial, but he ran a 4.33 40.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good, obviously. Versatile defender. Says he can move multiple positions in the secondary, including both safety spots and corners. So that would be nice.
Hmm.
Good coverage skills in both man and zone schemes. Very good at ball. He has exceptional ball skills, high football IQ, good tackler.
Yeah.
Obviously, played in the SEC. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he definitely could be a guy that you get here in the third round. Um,
I just think linebacker could be a guy that we could address
Later on,
later. Yeah, I mean,
because if you look at the linebackers, I mean, you have guys like Jack Kaiser's good,
yeah.
Bruce Simon late in the round. So like, there's a couple of guys. Munden, he did decent, I think, in the Senior Bowl.
Well,
So
and I think you're looking at, I mean, Jack Kaiser. That's how you say
yeah,
that.
Jack Kaiser.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Jack Kaiser's a Notre Dame guy. I mean, I think he very easily could be a guy that we snatch if he's there in a later round. But
Yeah,
being with Al Golden at Notre Dame, but
yeah. Another guy, Azarie Thomas. He helped his stock in the Senior Bowl. He was pretty good there. Could be another corner to bring in, but we do have a lot of young corners. So I don't know if we want to go
yeah, I don't really think
there.
corner is quite as
I'm a big
pressing. I
fan
think
of
we need to
I'm a
go.
big fan of Deion Walker too. He played really well in the Senior Bowl. Um, he's another guy,
Mhm.
interior defensive lineman. I think we could go, but I'm kind of leaning the Texas guy.
Yeah, me
Is
too.
that
I
what
just
you're,
think
is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I just think safety is the most imperative need at this current moment because, like you said, corner we have like 3 to 5 young corners, and then defensive line room. Yeah, that could use some boosting, but the fact that we're pretty much only running uh, Jordan Battle, we probably ought to bring a guy in there.
Yeah. All right. Let's take Andrew Mukuba. I think is how you say his
Makuba,
name from Texas.
yeah,
So that'll round out the first of our mock drafts. See what PFF graded us.
we'll see.
A minus.
I'm not really sure how we got a D+ with that Andrew Makuba pick, but
Yeah, I don't really know. But 2 A's start off the bat. A minus, not a bad deal.
no, I think that I'd be happy with that. I mean, you got 3 SEC guys.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
All right. Mock draft number 2, we had to go to a different website because I do not have a PFF subscription. So I can only do one, unfortunately, because, PFF is, money hogs. But, all right. So I say for the sake of discussion, let's see who's gone. James Pierce is gone. Michael Williams is gone. Shamir Stewart is gone. Um, so that leaves us with Ashton Genty, Malachi Starks, Jalen Walker, Tyler Booker's up here, Kenneth Grant, Nick Scorton, Mike Green, Walter Nolan, Benjamin Morrison, Shavon Rebel. Um,
I don't
personally,
like this board.
personally, I'm a big fan of Walter Nolan. I think he could be a difference maker at defensive tackle. He's from Ole Miss. He is 6'3", 305. I've been watching a little bit of him recently. He's got an explosive first step. He's got good mobility at his size at 305. Got good hands. Changes directions very quickly. So he's kind of more athletic than you would imagine a guy of his size being. He he's got pretty much all of the things that you want in a interior like defensive line pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what his. Let me look what his production was. 6.5 sacks last year, 48 tackles. So I think he definitely could be a guy in play. I've seen him kind of being named in some mock drafts at that interior defensive line. If the Bengals maybe do go out and get a guy like Chase Young or Azeez Ojulari in free agency at that edge spot, I think Walter Nolan could be a guy that could come in if they don't give BJ Hill a long-term deal and kind of take his spot. And I think he's a really good football player.
Yeah, I would be okay with that. What are the edges looking like here?
Edges, you got Walker, Scorton, Mike Green, Sawyer.
Yeah, no.
Mike Green, I really like Mike Green. I saw him a lot in the Senior Bowl. He's one of the more productive players, I guess by like stats wise.
Yeah,
Pull up his stats real quick. Yeah, 17 sacks last season is unreal. He's I don't know if I'm sure everybody probably saw the video of him just putting the Oregon offensive tackle on his butt, just kind of running right through his chest. So I think Mike Green definitely could be a guy that if he's there, I think I would not be mad about him. I think he's a phenomenal talent.
I just wonder if that's, I don't know. I mean, maybe a guy we could get later. I don't know.
No, he's a first round guy.
You think he is?
Yeah, he's a first round knock. He pretty much solidified that at the Senior Bowl.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, if it's me, I'm leaning edge. Really, no matter what. I'm not taking Ashton Genty. I know he was the number one overall player here.
I think if you're going BPA, I think Starks could be.
I was going to say, if you're just going BPA, then I would say Malachi Starks for sure.
Yes, Starks is a safety, but he's phenomenal in coverage.
Well, we need a safety.
Yeah, we do need a safety, but some teams are kind of worried about getting a safety at that high. But yeah. I mean, he's really good at run defense, great tackler, very strong. I think he's a great all around player. I think he could be really good. I think he was a captain at Georgia, which the Bengals like their captain. So I think if we're going BPA, I think Malachi Starks definitely would be at the top of the board if he's there.
Yeah, I don't think the Bengals should be going BPA though. I think that the defensive line is just too much of a need. And I mean, there's guys here. I mean, we got Jalen Walker, Mike Green, like you were saying, Walter Nolan. I mean, there's guys here at positions of needs that are reasonable selections at this pick. So,
I think we should switch it up. We went edge last time. I think we should go interior D-line.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't be mad about Walter Nolan.
Yeah, him or Kenneth Grant, both good players. But
I've just heard more good things about Walter Nolan recently.
Yeah, let's go him just for the sake of discussion, since we went edge at the first round last year. So let's see who's available here in the second round. We're not trading with the Giants.
We're not doing that. Jalen Milroe.
So we can look at edge. Tuamole slid.
Okay, I mean,
Landon Jackson played well in the Senior Bowl. You got I don't even know how to say that guy's name. The interior offensive line.
Jackson Dart.
Gray Zabel. He was one of the biggest risers in the Senior Bowl. He had a phenomenal week. He definitely could be a guy. Out of North Dakota State. Xavier Watts, obviously, he has the connection with Al Golden being at Notre Dame. A lot of Bengals fans are kind of penciling him in as a guy to look at.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he
Tate,
wouldn't be
Tate
horrible.
Ratledge is good. So Jordan Birch is a good edge rusher as well. So
I'm not
um,
like, I
I
don't
think I
know.
think Tuamoliau could be good.
Yeah,
I would say Zabel, and then
Hmm.
I would probably say Xavier Watts would probably be
Xavier
my
Watts.
early
Yeah.
three. Um,
Well, for me, I always lean towards offensive or defensive line, boostering them, but uh, I don't know. I'm not. I mean, JT could be decent, I guess. I don't know. I mean, where has he been like mostly mocked?
he's been kind of in the I would probably say early second round, early to mid second round guy.
I mean, I think he's a
Um,
guy that could be useful in getting. I mean, I don't think he's
yeah,
quite.
I mean, I think he's kind of like Jack Sawyer, where if he's your one, I don't think it's great, but I think he could be a really good two.
Yeah.
I think yeah, the I forget or did why am I blanking? Al Golden say that he was gonna kind of go in a 4-3, or did he say 3-4
I
defensive?
don't know. I can't
Can't
remember what he
remember.
said.
He said in the press conference. I can't remember, but yeah. I mean, we've seen Tuamoli obviously as Ohio State fans for a while.
Mhm.
His I think his biggest thing is he's very like strong. He's got obviously he was a 5 star, so long arms, and then obviously he had that one Penn State game where he just went absolutely nuclear.
Yeah.
And then he kind of quieted down, but this year he was better. So yeah, I
Yeah, he
mean,
had
one
a
of his
pretty solid
weaknesses is
year.
his pass rush is inconsistent, which I would agree with. Um, but I mean, I think he's a good player. He's ranked as the ninth best edge rusher in the class, so
Yeah.
I think he's
So
good.
my thing is, I think that the Bengals are to the point now where we need to go all in. I think that I I think that we have, after what we saw this year, we let Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase's best seasons of football just go out the window and accomplish nothing for us. I think both of those guys are entering their prime. They're both young. Um, I think that the Bengals are firmly in a win now position. So I think that carries over to the draft as well. Who who of these players is going to be the guy who is going to come in and immediately start or immediately play a lot and make an impact and help us win now? Like, the past several years we've been drafting a couple years ahead. We've been drafting guys who we don't need at the time, but we're drafting them a couple years early. That method is stupid. It's not working. We need to bring guys in who are going to step in and play now. So that's what I'm looking at here. Who's
I
going to
would
come in and
probably
play
say,
now? I'm Starks
yeah, I would
or
probably
Not
say,
Starks. Watts, not
yeah,
Starks.
I would probably
Watts.
say, going off of that criteria, I would say Xavier Watts or Gray Zabel would probably be the
Yeah,
two.
I
Do you want to go
I would
Watts?
probably lean Watts. Um,
Yeah, I mean Watts
he's a
was
Notre Dame
phenomenal at
guy.
Notre Dame,
Yeah,
and he
he's
already
familiar with
obviously
Al
has
Golden.
familiarity with Al Golden. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm good
and
with Watts. I think he's a great player.
yeah. I think that we just need to be looking at guys who are going to come in and either immediately start or immediately give us good minutes, consistent impact. Because we got to stop drafting 2 years ahead,
Yeah,
and that's just stupid. Especially with I yeah.
yeah,
I think the Bengals are in a position where they need to go all in. That like enough of this like building and drafting 2 years in advance or whatever. Like, no, we need to go all in. We need to win now.
yeah. I think Xavier Watts is a guy that could definitely come in day one and start for us if they
Yeah,
do end up going away from Geno Stone. So yeah, let's go with him.
yeah.
All right, third round. Let's see who's still available there. Um,
I am interested to see what this board is looking like here. Travion Henderson. Honestly, dude,
yeah, or Scadaboo
I,
at running back.
I would honestly
Tate
highly.
Ratledge is good.
Ooh,
Trying
I
to see
like
if
this
there's
board
any
right now. I think this is a good board.
Canards. Good. I think I'm not saying here in the
Big.
third round, But I think in the later rounds with the injury of Eric Gall, I think tight end could be in play in the
Yeah,
later rounds. I'm not saying in the third round with how the board's kind of fallen,
I think that
but
could be a day 3 pick, just based on
yeah,
the board.
I do think in the day three, I think a guy like Elijah Aurora helped his draft stock a lot in the
Hmm.
Senior Bowl. Terrence Ferguson is a complete tight end. Brenning Stool did well in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah,
And then Helm, obviously from Texas, he's solid. And then like you said, running back. I mean, Travion Henderson is kind of like Chase Brown, where he's kind of got that jolt to him, where he gets the ball and he can turn it into a
yeah,
big play at any moment.
yeah.
Cam Scadaboo is more kind of like a bruiser type of guy.
Is Judkins
Um,
here?
I do not think so.
No.
I think Judkins is gone. Let's see where
Yeah,
Judkins went. But yeah, like, I think for what the Bengals have, I think Judkins would probably fit more because
yeah,
I love Travion Henderson as a player. I think he's going to be awesome in the NFL.
yeah.
But Judkins was in the second round.
I mean,
Judkins was the third.
honestly though, what's the harm in just loading up on speedy backs that are pretty
That's
decent
true.
pass protection? And I mean, yeah, Travion Henderson and Chase Brown are very similar backs, but what's the harm?
Yeah,
Chase Brown's the guy, but I mean, I don't see any harm or any issue to adding a guy who has a very similar skill set, um, but might even be probably is better in pass protection. If it's me in this situation, um, I'm not even really looking too many other places. I'm probably taking Travion Henderson here, honestly.
yeah. I mean, I don't hate that pick at all. Like you said, he's elite at pass protection at the running back position.
Yeah,
Um, Very good leader. He's got
great locker room guy.
yeah, breakaway speed, obviously. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people I think are going to be trying to kind of recreate, what they have up there in Detroit with speedy, fast, electric guy and Jameer Gibbs, and the kind of
Yeah,
bruiser power guy in
which is a great combo. But
yeah.
hey,
But hey,
speed kills, and we
yeah,
got two guys that
and
can catch the football and block.
yeah, and I think the way that the Bengals offense runs is the Bengals they are not a run first team, they're a pass
Yeah,
first team.
yeah,
So I think having two guys who can kind of take time away from each other, who can pass block very well and can also are very prevalent in the passing game as well as bringing running in between the tackles if need be.
hmm,
Yeah, I mean, I would be all in on that. Just pretty much just put two great athletes on the field and let them work. I
yeah,
think I don't see anything wrong with that. So yeah, let's go Trevion.
yeah. I would
The
love
thing
that
is, I
pick.
don't know if Trevion's going to be there at that third round pick because I've heard a lot. I've heard his name in first round talks a little bit, but in this one,
Yeah,
he slipped a couple spots, which never always could happen. So
yeah.
B
I
plus
mean,
an A for that, so not too bad.
yeah. You never know what's going to happen on draft day. I mean,
Yeah,
really, it is a total shot in the dark. So you really don't know. But I mean, if it's me and you got a guy like Travion Henderson sitting there, I mean, even though we have Chase Brown, it's tough for me to pass up on a guy like that when we do need to bring in a back. So
yeah,
I mean that's just I would love if our running back duo consisted of Travion Henderson and Chase Brown. I think
that
that
would
would be
probably be the most electric backfield in the NFL.
yeah. So I think that would be an awesome pick. I don't really think the Bengals are looking to do that, but hey, once
That's
again,
why we're the GMs
I
too.
was gonna say if we were the GMs and he was sitting there at that point in time, I really don't even know if I would look too much outside of him. If I see Henderson is sitting there in the third round, um, I'm probably not even gonna really look too much at other positions. I think I would probably send that card in pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, that was our 2025 off season. So let us know what you guys think. If you guys kind of are seeing eye to eye with some of the players we mentioned, and let us know what you guys, some players that we might not have highlighted today, that you guys think the Bengals should look at in free agency or via the draft. Big off season for the Bengals. Obviously, we're going to be covering it throughout the off season. Whenever they make a move, we'll be talking about it. And we'll probably have a couple more kind of off-season videos before the off-season officially starts. I can't remember when free agency starts. Something
I
in
think it's like
March,
March 12th or something around there, maybe.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I thought it was fun exercise to see what
Yeah,
we would do as general manager. See, if we can run the Bengals better than the Bengals can run
I think we
themselves,
could.
which I think a lot of people think they can nowadays, which they're not wrong. So,
They're not wrong,
um,
man. Just before we wrap up, it's out there, but I'm telling you, man, like Miles Garrett requests a trade. I think you pick up the phone. I really do.
yeah, we'll see what they do with him and Cup requested a trade or Cup's on the trade blocks. There's a couple
Yeah,
guys the
I mean,
Bengals might be linked into, so that would be awesome.
I know we
I don't
didn't
know how
talk about that, but
the
there's a couple of
chances, but yeah.
guys. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys that aren't officially on the market. Like Garrett and Cup. I would be looking into it. I really would. I mean,
Doesn't
I
hurt to make a
think that
call.
I think that this is the time that the Bengals need to spend all their money. Like we need to we need to put all the chips in. Like this is the time that we need to go all in because Burrow and Chase are playing phenomenal football. They are in their prime. This is the time. Like especially if we can re-sign Hendrickson and Higgins, I think that this is the time that we need to go absolutely all in. We got a lot of money to spend in free agency. I think we need to spend it all, and I think that we need to spend every penny that we can to make the best possible team that we can around Joe Burrow to win the Super Bowl right now. I I think it's time that that move needs to be done. I think that we need to move draft picks, spend money. We got to get it done. We got to win now. So I think if it's me, I'm making the call on Miles Garrett. It's probably out there, but I'm gonna at least make the call and see what's up because the past couple of days in the sports world has been pretty crazy. So I think that anything is possible.
Yeah, no, I
So
agree. It doesn't hurt to make a call. So
So I think that you seriously look into Miles Garrett. I think that you look into Cooper Cup. I think a receiving room with Chase, Higgins, and Cup would be pretty much unfair with backfield of Chase Brown and Joe Burrow. So I think you look into Cooper Cup on maybe a 1 year or 2 year deal. Another guy that I would love, who's not on the market, we'd have to trade for him, Sauce Gardner.
bring him back to
um,
Cincy.
Bring him back to Cincy. His market's at an all-time low because he had the worst season of his career in the NFL last year. Personally, I still fully believe he is a top 5 corner in the league. I think he is an elite corner capable of being the best corner in the league because he literally was 1 season ago. But yeah, his stock's at an all-time low. The New York Jets are horrible and have no clue how to run a franchise similar to us. So um, I think that he's a guy that we should also pursue. I really do. Bring him back to Cincy. His market's at an all. His market won't get lower. I don't see his market getting lower because he's a really good corner. So he's also 24, 25 years old, pretty young guy. I think that's a guy we look at too. If it's me, honestly, I really do.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Again, make sure you comment, guys, who think the Bengals should get via draft, free agency, or trade. And like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.